photo otherwise. The next slide, please. The next slide. Was well known for its elephants. My grand uncle, Raja Prakriti Chandra Barua, or Lalji as he was called, was literally the king of elephants. He was an elephant catcher par excellence in the densest jungles of Bhutan and India, and I was born there. So when we were young, and we would go with my great grand uncle, who was called Lalji, and we would then build a stockade. That was the first thing to do, where the elephants would be trapped. These elephants were required by the forest department. So elephants were used only for three things. One was war, there's no war now. Ceremonial, which is really gone. And timber logging, which is gone altogether. So the practice of catching elephants has now come to an end. So along with this stockade, we'll build a village. 300 people, I mean soothsayers, naughtigals, tailors, cooks, handis, all the people required for this big operation, so 300 or 400, and into this magical world, I grew up. I was the eldest grandchild, so I was spoiled, naturally. As we go on, I'll tell you more. The next slide, please. Slide. This is me on my personal elephant called Pratap Singh. Pratap Singh, which till today has the record of being the largest elephant. Most elephants can understand between 20 and 22 commands. Pratap Singh could go up to almost 40. And I remember as a kid, these are the things you don't say nowadays. But this is about 65 years old. At the age of 7, I shot my first leopard alone on Pratap Singh's back. Luckily, hunting has come to an end. So what happens is, you have specialist elephants called Kunki elephants with special mahouts, and the Kunkis surround the wild elephants, who are then brought into the stockade. The ones you want to tame, you keep, the rest you let them go. You were at one point of time allowed to shoot a bull if it gave you trouble. I'm very pleased that my grandfather, not a single bull was killed, he was just let out. And then the tamasha starts. It takes almost 2 or 3 years to train an elephant. It's a very, very painful thing. You put an elephant between 2 stakes, you tie ropes, you put in its legs, and then you start rubbing it with banana leaves so that ticklish feeling goes away, and you sing songs to it. So it gets used to the human voice. It's a fascinating, albeit a bit painful, and like I said, it's 2 or 3 years operation, and then you hand over the elephant to whoever wants it, in this case the forest department. Next slide, please. This is this is Lalji, Pratap Singh, and my grandmother, who despite being a queen, was a very simple woman who always wore a white sari, and what little I know about birds I learned from. Manas, this is Rohan's map. Rohan, I've used it without your permission. Manas, which I think is the most beautiful national park in India. And if God ever wanted to settle on earth, he would certainly settle in Manas. Manas was the family's hunting ground, personal hunting ground. So I've been going to Manas. Manas is amazing. It has 2, the pygmy hawk, which was declared extinct, refound, hispid hare on the Assam hill. The golden langur was discovered here. Presbytus, I think it is an GI named after the famous tea planting doctor EPG. And of course, it's got everything. It's got clouded leopard, spotted linsang. I mean, just name it. And across the river is Bhutan. And it's the rest house, which is called Bothanguri, which was a family's hunting lodge, is halfway up on a hill. Across the Manas River is Bhutan, and you can see hundreds of wreath hornbills, great hornbills, flying out to Bhutan. Now, Bhutan on the other side is still the king of Bhutan's personal hunting ground. He arrives once a year with his entourage, or his father, the current father. Next. We are here under the auspices of both Laika and the Delhi Bird Club. A.O. Hume, who's an amazing character, one of the founders of the Indian National Congress, a successor to Rahul Gandhi. In 1885, he's sitting here on the day the Indian National Congress. He was a great administrator, great bird collector, and he was one of the first people to write short articles about it. He finally lost his job. Nobody in the government hated him. He bought a house in called Rothaby Castle in Simla, where he wanted to write a book called The Birds of the British Empire. Every winter when it snowed, he came down to the plains. And one year he went back to find that his chowkidar had burned all his notes to keep warm. He decided he was never going to see a bird again. He donated his collection to the Natural History Museum. 70,000 skins, 79,000 eggs. Next. Next. The first formal reports on birds of Delhi was by Sir Norman Frederick Frome, who wrote in the BNHS in 1948, Birds of Delhi and District. Then a book came out by General H.P. Hutton called Birds of Delhi and District. These are amazing because if you compare them to what is happening now, you know the difference. Unfortunately, very, very difficult to get hold of these copies. But if somebody wants to borrow, I will be very happy to loan them mine. Next. Next. Then the Brits came in for Delhi. Peter Jackson, just recently dead, was the Reuters correspondent in Delhi. Humko bhi de do yaar. This is an amazing painting, a photograph of 56 Siberian cranes. I have seen up to 30, 40 myself. But this is Peter Jackson's photograph. Shows that they were there, and as all of you know, we haven't seen them for almost 15 years, and they will never see them again. Because the eastern race, or the western race of the Siberian crane has gone. Lieutenant General Harold William, they formed in 1952 the first Delhi Bird Club. Next. Next. You'll be very surprised, but Indira Gandhi was one of the founding members of the Delhi Bird Club. Along with Usha Ganguly, she was the wife of the Vice Chancellor of Delhi University. She wrote the first major book called A Guide to the Birds of Delhi, which Nikhilai and Bill updated as the Atlas of Delhi and Haryana. Again, a book which is very difficult to find, but full of information. Next, please. Next. There was Air Marshal, a good time to have a sip of wine. Garden and Birds in the Sun with photograph. This was the first photographic book on birds in India. A lot of photographs were taken by Christina Van Loek, who's the sister of Van Loek, who supported Salim Ali all his life. Next. Next. Julian Donahue. I don't know how many of people you heard. He was an insectologist, for a lack of a better word. In 1967, the first record of the bristle grass bird was in 1967, where he shot the specimen. In those days, you could do it. And then the bird was never recorded in Delhi area. Till one day Sudhir Vyas and I found a single specimen in it's an amazing bird and called quite easy to see. A week in Nagaland, you add lifers that nobody else has seen. But all that glitters is not gold. As Shaki Tharoor would say, all that coruscates with effulgence is not Horus. Next, please. A lot of a survey we did was from dead birds, which we found in the market. If you drive from the airport in Dimapur to the capital Kohima, every 500 yards, there's a heap of dead birds. You can see the beautiful nuthatch, Assam laughing thrush, barbet. These are all killed and sold for food. Nepal, Nagaland, at one point of time, has only 20 lakh people. Enough forests to sustain this kind of thing. But now the Assam government, the people of Assam, have got involved in this trade. So what was meant for food or sold as food in Nagaland is now sold for food in the Karbi along the Kaziranga border as well. So there is a lot of pressure on people, as we will see. Next, please. This is how we first discovered that the blue pitta was still found in India from a dead bird in the Dimapur fort. When I saw this photograph, I said, that's blue pitta. And that's how we knew that it still existed in this country. Slow loris, hunters, and it is from here that we first did the first survey. 50% of the birds that we listed in our checklist were from dead birds. Next, please. Nothing is more exemplified than the fate of the Amur falcon. The Amur falcon is a small bird, small raptor, which has an elliptical migration. In October, November, it comes through India, through Nagaland, crosses India, crosses to the east coast of Africa, goes down the east coast of Africa, winters in South Africa, but when it returns to the Amur Mountains in Siberia, it doesn't cross India. It goes over out the Afghanistan. Sumit and I read about this in an article written by a Japanese woman, not a bird watcher, who went to study the textiles of Nagaland, about how she found these movies. So we went to Doing. Doing is the only dam in Nagaland, and found that every day in this 10 to 15 day migration period, 25,000 birds were killed every day. Killed. Here, you can see them. Because there's no electricity, no refrigeration, they wouldn't let the bird die. They would break the wings and keep it alive because, it starts to rot. It sells in the food market for 40 rupees a bird. So you can imagine, over a 10-day period, about 2.5 lakh birds are killed. We started this campaign. I went to see the Chief Minister, Mr. Rio, who later became a friend of mine. He spent the first week talking to me about hunting techniques. ऐसे पीछे बैठना है, बंदूक ऐसे. Finally, I got him some money, extra money for his stay, and then started listening to me. We started this campaign. The season of the Amur migration is just over, and I'm very, very pleased to say that not one bird was killed this year. It's the greatest conservation story in recent times, anywhere in the world. Next. Here you can see them being sold for food. We managed to ring and put satellites of 3 birds, Naga, Boka and Panti. And for 2 years we traced their return journey and their journey. Woke up, became, we don't know, either the battery ran out. And Panti and Naga, we still get some beats. Next, please. Here, you can see this is how they used to come. And the fishermen of Doyang would put up the nets across trees and the birds would get. Next, please. I wrote some books. Next, please. Gave some talks. I don't know. And then I found fame. My friend Rohan started a comic with Uncle Picky as the hero. Comes out once a month. And is on the web, and I think this is what he thinks of me. So this was fame. Next. And as we come to the end of my talk, I want to ask all of you here, be slightly different. Don't be odd. Take Muhammad Allama's poem. This is the Shaheen. The symbol of Islam was the Shaheen. Unfortunately, the ISIS have got it. But see what he says. परवाज़ है दोनों का इसी एक फजा में, करगस का जहां और है शाही. Though the vulture and the shaheen occupy the same, but the worlds, करगस उसको बोलते हैं vulture को, गिद्ध को, are same. अल्फाज व मायने में तवाफत नहीं है, लेकिन जो मुल्ला की आज़ान होती है और जो मुजाहिद की आवाज़ होती है वो अलग है. It means the same, it is delivered from the same pulpit, but it's completely different. So while leading ordinary life, you can make a little difference, be a little different. With that, thank you, Laika. Thank you for having us, and thank you very much. Very bored, happy. What?
So wine and snacks. More wine and
More wine and snacks. I can have a drink now. I don't know if you're invited or because the non-specific is an open question.
Website. Yeah. OnePlanet.com. So I say One Planet. Okay. It's very cool, yeah. Yeah.